I have a new favorite book, and it is written by probably the only author that I can think of who would be hilarious enough to take a no spice romantasy story, enemies to lovers, phoenix shifter, maiden sacrifice to monster book that is written intentionally without the explicit content and put spice as a central part of her story. I'm talking about the book by Mary Meckham, Assassins of Fire and Sacrifice. It is one of the books in the Sacrificed Heart series, and it is a no spice romantasy story. If you are not familiar with this new series and you haven't read any of the books yet, you really must because they're all so good and you are going to love them. And I can't wait to talk about this one with you all today on this week's First Words Friday. But before we get into that, I'm Chantel. I am the face behind the channel Fairly Bookish. I am on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and I do have my own website, which is very much a work in progress. But I love connecting with you guys, so leave me a comment or send me a message. It just makes my day. But let's get into this book, Assassins of Fire and Sacrifice. When I heard that this was going to be a Phoenix Shifter book, I was instantly sold. I love phoenixes for personal reasons. I think a lot of us can relate to the symbolism behind the phoenix, but I feel like this in particular is something that I haven't run across too many times in the no low spice subgenre of fantasy, fairy tale, myth, legend sort of retelling world. I get some really great dragon shifters. There's actually one, I think it's the first book in this series. Fantastic book. I loved it. And I get Red Riding Hood, where there is a wolf shifter. Some really, really, really good ones in that one. But I've only read one other no spice Phoenix shifter story, and that was by Lachelle Slater. And I've looked through some other ones, and I feel like they're probably out there, and I just haven't encountered them. But most of the ones that I read haven't been exceptional, and this one really is. So, this enemies to lovers story starts out with these two main characters from kingdoms that have been fighting for a very long time. There's been a lot of superstition about phoenix shifters, a lot of violence, a lot of bad things happening between these two countries, and they're both like accusing each other of these and denying it, and there's just no way to get to the bottom of it. The main character, the female main character, lost her family to what she was told was an attack by a phoenix shifter. She was an orphan and she had a very difficult life. She was taken in by a woman who later encouraged her to become part of a very highly trained secret assassin operative group. And because somewhere in her past she was told that she must have an ancestor who was from this other country that had phoenix blood in them, she was an ideal candidate for this group. She couldn't get burnt. She was immune to fire, and she was able to end these phoenixes when people who did not have a little bit of phoenix blood in them could not do that. So when these two countries finally decided that they wanted peace, the stipulation that they had was that this other kingdom's phoenix shifter prince would marry the daughter of one of the noble families of this other kingdom. However, instead of a nobleman's daughter, they decided to send this female assassin. She would be poised to be in the center of their political world, and if any little sign of the peace treaty was being broken, or should her kingdom decide to send her word to end this prince, she would be right there and poised to do it, hopefully gain his trust, hopefully he wouldn't suspect her and she could get in and out and protect her country. So she is a very strong woman who is used to speaking her mind. Playing the part of a nobleman's daughter is probably not her greatest strength, and she just can't help herself. And the banter between these two people, who obviously know the other intends to end them at some time, should anything slightly go wrong, it's just so good and so funny. So she knows that she needs to win his trust, but she's also wants to irritate him all the time. She just takes great joy in irritating this guy, her new husband, who in turn wants to irritate her. So in public, they are doing this dance of what everybody thinks is them being romantic when they're actually just annoying each other. So she is annoying him by doing different things, and he decides to pay her back by introducing her to some of his favorite foods. And as is befitting for a Phoenix shifter prince, he loves spicy food. Her country doesn't use spices like this, and she is not used to them, but they're in public, right? And he is sharing so kindly with her his favorite treats, which are so spicy that she's about to like choke to death because it's just not what she's used to. And she has to pretend like she likes it because everyone's watching them. So that is the spice. This is, I would bet that this was intentional. So this spicy food part element of the story just cracked me up. This is a no spice story with a lot of spice in it, a lot of chili peppers, but not the kind that you would expect. It was just such a clever play on this idea of that we use for like spice in books. Just made my day, and that is something that you can expect from Mary Meckham. She will add these little funny things into the book that go with the story, and they almost seem innocent, but you're pretty sure they might have not been quite so innocent. It is a little poke at something, and this one was probably one of my favorites. I'm not going to spoil the story and tell you how it ends, but I have a cat. Sorry, a cat jumping at me. Um, but it does end beautifully. I want to say that there are little hints in the story that lead you to believe something, and it kind of happens unexpectedly and quickly, and it leaves you with this a couple moments of like, wow, I didn't really see that coming, and I really like that about the story too. And in the end, we do get to see the beauty of love triumphing against superstitions and preconceived ideas, and we get to see loss handled in a really beautiful way, as well as that beautiful moment that we all look for when we think of phoenixes. And if you haven't read this, and especially if you haven't read any of Mary Meckham's books, I highly recommend it. I cannot recommend this series enough. This is some of the best authors all coming together to handle a series beautifully. And I cannot think of one of the books that I was disappointed in, and I was especially not disappointed in getting another Phoenix Shifter book to add to my very small collection. So if you've read this book or any of the others in the series, I would love to hear what you think. If you haven't, this book releases today, April 5th. You can grab it on Kindle Unlimited, or you can buy it from Kindle or any other ebook publisher. I believe there are also hardback copies and paper copies available, but you'll have to wait for them to ship to you. And I don't know if you want to do that. I think you want to read this one right now, this weekend. And as always, I love your comments and suggestions on other no or low spice books. I would love to hear more shifter stories. I have a small collection of wolf and dragon shifters. If you have read other low spice, no spice shifter stories that you think that I would enjoy, leave me a comment or send me a message. I would love to check them out. Until next time, like, subscribe, do all of those things if you feel like it. I love connecting with you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic week.